You sensed it too. There it is.
Might of the Karui! Your head is mine! I am the true Nakuramatoi! Your head is mine! Lend me your strength, Tokuha!
Hey guys, wanted to share the build I've been working on over the past week. It is a Mjölnir shield druid. Just jump right into the map here real quick. There's map, there's all that. And I'll open up the Atlas tree here as soon as we get in, and then we'll jump right into it. I can see that has all that spec'd up there, unstable energies, precursor effect, and strong boxes. So the build works with the cast on crit, and actually using resonating shield as an enabler. When you call down the storm, that makes it easy to shock things. And then we have a bunch of lightning effects that are on our resonating shield. Right now, the build's power level is not where I would like it, but you can see the potential here. And then if I do need to, I can always just do that with the shield wall, and that's going to clear these giant packs. Eventually, I hope to get the build online where it can handle all these with resonating shield. But right now that's a bit tricky, just because being energy shield, it's a bit trickier to solve the stun threshold problem you can get on this. You can see in the bottom left, my stun threshold is building up. So I do need to watch that, sometimes switch to using shield wall and then running into them like this, and let that go back down, and I can go back to using resonating shield. But I'm quite happy with how it's turned out overall, and I can definitely see the potential. There's a bunch of cool stuff going on with it that I'll show after the map is done here. And right now all the lightning supports are just level 19 because I don't have the currency to get them up all the way yet. Let me go back to trying to find the map boss. I have a hard time recording, commentating, and paying attention to the gameplay at the same time. But let's see here. And I apologize, I am not the best at navigating these maps, and I'd prefer to have this video without a cut here. Let's see, I think it's in this corner if we're lucky. Nope, nope. And where the hell is it? I just missed it somewhere here. Alright, at this point I'm just going to cut to it. Hopefully you guys trust me enough that I'm not doing anything weird with it. I'll cut to where I found the map boss finally. Alright, and here it is. Of course, I just need to go a little bit further. But my brain said, oh, that's not going to be it. It's a straight line there. Alright, so for this, I still do have the Nebulok swap. It's actually about the most consistent I've got it, though. Because I do have some tech in here to get those endurance charges easily. Although, again, as with the rest of the build, I still need to improve my supports and the gear and everything, but it's definitely functional. And I will jump back out. and show how this all works. I will just give you a heads up. This is definitely a work in progress. I'm still figuring it out exactly how I want to do it, and I need to optimize things. But just to show what's going on right now, let's start with the items. We have a Mjölnir here. This gives us Thunder God's Wrath. It's basically just a trigger skill. Lets us trigger a bunch of lightning skills when we hit things. And then we're just using a shield here, and we're using a resonating shield with that. Reason we're doing this is because our shield, like most of my other builds, this is what scales our damage. And Mjölnir here, we don't care about its hit damage, although it's not too bad, and that's why we do use Herald of Thunder. And then Crown of Eyes, this is the other important item. This allows us to scale our attack damage alongside spell damage. Very good for a hybrid build like this. Although there is a new item, chase item added that has +4, up to +4 to all skills, and that would be an upgrade over this. And then the rest of the gear here, the other important piece right now is this. This is Life Leech applies to energy shield, and it gets rid of the downside. These are quite expensive. This is the first item I saved up for in a bot because it allows the build to function decently enough. Although I'll have to play test it more. I think we might be able to just use the other belt that lets our Life Flask apply to energy shield. And that might be what I do in the final version. I don't know. I'll have to think through that some more. The skills here. The important ones are going to be the trigger skills here. So in Mjölnir here, we have Snap. This is because it generates infusions, and it is actually a lightning. It has lightning tag. They changed that, I think, last league with the way Snap works. So when an enemy is shocked, it can trigger this lightning damage, and it is going to give us an infusion of the same element. Which is going to be lightning. And then we have increased energy, and then arc. Arc is the other thing you saw me using here. When we have that lightning infusion, it's going to do a bunch more damage, and it's going to consume that lightning infusion, which is important for something that I'll show here later. The other supports here, shield charge here, this just has a bunch of utilities, so faster attack speed. Deadly Resolve, this is something you can throw in here. It gets you a bit more hits, but not too important. This one is nice though, Blazing Critical. When we use shield charge, this for 5 seconds afterwards makes all our attacks gain 15% damage as fire. And Stomping Ground just because, but it's not important, it doesn't do a whole lot. Shield Wall here, single target damage and big AoE. This time in the build, I've just opted to make it really fast. So if I need to use it, I can. And then I just cycle through blowing it up really quickly. And then just heft, close combat. Add a Louis here, but it's not actually at the level right now where it needs to be to make this a great support. And then this, I know I already need to switch this out. But right now I just have Lightning Attunement in here for some extra lightning damage. But I already mapped it out in POE. I can do something better with that. Okay, and then the other important part is the cast on critical here. This is what actually enables a lot of the build. This is why it would need to be Druid too. So because of our ascendancy, we are always critting, and it's easy to trigger this. And what we're doing here is Thunderstorm. The main reason for this is because it is a really good skill to trigger all of these other lightning skills, but it also is going to drench the enemies, and that'll be important when I get to Resonating Shield, because Resonating Shield has a bunch of the same supports that are on Cast on Critical here. So you have Shock Conduction, Electromagnetism, and then Energy and Magnified Area. You can put some more lightning supports, and I still need to do a bunch more playtesting because these builds can get pretty complicated as far as trying to figure out what's best and most efficient to put in here. But right now it's like this, so it triggers more often, and so that I'm standing inside the area of Lightning Storm with that drenched effect more often for the Resonating Shield. This is a weird one. So we're not scaling the damage too much with this. We are still keeping a steadfast in here too. I played around with taking that off, but the stun threshold is just really nice to have in there. And then it has the same supports, except electromagnetism. I found in my playtesting you only want one of these for shock conduction. So it doesn't have too much lightning damage, but it doesn't matter. Just a little bit of added lightning damage because enemies are drenched are going to trigger all these supports because of this shock conduction. And then that's going to trigger coursing current, and that's going to trigger static shocks. And then I just have this for increased attack speed and building rage. And then Herald of Thunder here, just basic stuff. You don't need living lightning, it just looks cool. Leap Slam here, there's a little bit of tech to go over here. So it has this blazing critical, same as the shield charge. But then this is the other important one is the ground effects. So I have a bunch of increased area here for that. And then you have Shocking Leap. This makes shock ground every time you leap slam. I'm still getting used to using this. I forget to use it all the time. And then Holy Descent here. This gives us extra health regen, which right now in my build is energy shield regen too. And then this is weapon swap tech. I've just found Herald of Ash for a shield wall right now, since I'm using that, is the best. And just increase area. I don't even think these work with it, but I was playing around with it and they're left in there. Sorry for that. And then you've probably, well, maybe not. Maybe this is the first time you're seeing it, but you might have seen like a bunch of builds that have these minions that come in. Go back to here. So it's on a weapon swap right now. When I drop shield wall, they come in and then they just blow up. But the reason we're doing that is because it gives us this buff here from the wolf pack. It's this Amana's Tithe. They hotfixed this recently. I wasn't using it when it was the Invul Aura. I just found out about it when they did that patch here recently where they took that off. But it's still nice for the build because you get all these extra effects. And even though it doesn't seem to me like they do a whole lot of damage, the thing that they do is critically hit, which gives us more energy for all the stuff that we were doing with the lightning skills. But it is pretty funny just watching the minions come in here and die up. It's also pretty sad. It's like the best use for the skill is not to use it with the whole wolf pack fantasy, but just to come in here and have them blow up like this. But anyway, if you haven't seen this yet, you'll be seeing a lot of builds. Not all of them use it, but the ones that can easily fit it on a weapon swap like this, it's free extra damage, even though it's kind of silly. And then that's the skills. I hesitate to even pull this up because this is going to be intimidating and hard to explain. But this is the passive tree here. So yeah, we are using the entwined realities here, where we get extra jumping off points basically from all the notables, or the keystones, excuse me, the keystones that we allocate here. And I am making heavy use of that. Not too much this one, although we're taking some. This is the extra stuff you can get on the Druid. I'll start with that, I guess. This is going to be long, and I apologize. If you're not interested in how the build functions, just watch that first part of the video and call it good. Because this is not meant to be a build guide, just kind of showing what's going on here, because this still needs lots of improvement and iteration to get functioning where I'm completely satisfied with it. Anyway, going back to this powerful casting, we need a bunch of strength for your Mjölnir. This is one way we can get it, and we get spell damage, which is also attack damage at the same time. And then we're doing the maximum rage here because these are also good points from those added things. And then we also have added energy up here too. But that's the only thing right now I have on the extra passives that are granted by the Unseen Path. To talk about the rest of the build, I did mention the item here, Crown of Eyes. Again, the spell damage, so any spell damage you see is also attack damage. But the other part to mention here that's important is the Rage. So Rage has all this extra effect. Sorry, let me turn off the minions blowing up here. That's pretty annoying. All right, going back to this. So Rage here is important because every 10 Rage gives us the physical damage here. It gives us more. Oh my God, are they still? Oh no, it's the sorry. It's the where was I? So the rage on hit here, extra physical damage, but then it's this one over here. This is my anoint. This gives us spell damage, which is also attack damage for all that rage. And then rage itself is good because it's just a more multiplier on attack damage. The other stuff here, a lot of it is just keystone jumps for the sake of keystone jumps. I'm not a big fan of this, although it is helpful with how I have it built right now. But I'm thinking I might actually go Chaos Inoculation for the build as long as it doesn't completely destroy my stun threshold. As long as I can set that up properly, I think it'll be the better option. And this is actually kind of weak, but we are using a Controlled Metamorphosis here. And that jumps us over to the keystone, which then jumps us over to being able to allocate this. And there's some like increased spell damage here for each attack we use. Usually this is at 2 or 3. And again, increased spell damage is increased attack damage. This I am just picking up for the strength because that is hard to fit all the attributes onto a Mjölnir build. And then we are just pathing up. I don't want to spend too long into this. There's a bunch of like ways that I'm making these spells cheaper, so I'm not going out of mana, and then pathing to get the energy shield. And then this is probably the other like amazing thing that I lucked into, honestly. So Heroic Tragedy, specifically this one here, this is what turns all our strength into increased energy shield. That's why the energy shield is so high. But then because of the keystone jumps, I stumbled into the best one probably for this build. Maybe there's others. There probably are others that are better, but I'm not going to spend the time. But if you can find this exact one, this is good. But I imagine there's quite a few keystones here, or timeless jewels here, excuse me, that are really good for this part of the tree on the Druid. But just show it real quick. So we have 2 of these lightning ones, and they also give us strength, and we need that strength. And then I have three of these natural energies here. So that's a 120% increase maximum energy shield. And it's also 30% to lightning resist, which given how hard it is to get these resists, that's really nice to pick it up on the tree because the suffix pressure can be pretty intense. And then there's just a few other things here. This is increased mana regen and then increased physical damage. That's nice for the build. But those are the main things. Like I got super lucky with these. There's another one of those war tactics. I got super lucky with this one, just how many it added and how many fit the build. The next thing, this is important here for how it functions, is I take this not because I care, but because it lets me jump to some of these other things. And then this is the important one for the build, Infusion of Power. So with that Mjölnir setup, we are consuming elemental infusions, and that gets us a power charge, which whoop-de-doo, a power charge. But then as we path down here, we are taking resonance for the jump, but also because it changes those power charges into endurance charges. Which you would normally not want to do, except for the fact that we are a shield build using, you guessed it, Nebulok, my favorite item in the game. This is honestly the easiest thing to always weapon swap to in a shield build, especially early on. It's easy to get stuff online with it if you can figure this out. And so far in my playtesting, because this effect occurs like every 4 seconds, and because I can also get increased endurance charges here, and I also have this soul core here, 50% chance to gain an extra charge. This triggers once every 4 seconds with consuming this elemental fusion and with the skills I have in Mjölnir. So you'll see, I'm still working on it, and I still need to get a better showcase for bossing. But you just basically are able to, I have to build up my rage here, so give me a second. So when my rage gets to the top here, you can see, okay, now I can start blowing them off in one hit. So you just do this, and you just almost always, or at least a lot higher uptime than I've had in any of my other builds, have the always critically hit endurance charges. And because I've focused on increasing the attack speed pretty quick, it is actually pretty smooth to do this on bosses. You can still move around and stuff. Jumping back to the passive tree here. The rest of it is just jumps. There's a lot of stuff here which has been nice that I've been able to pick up extra attributes, because that's hard to do on a Mjölnir build, and it's especially hard to do with gear that's honestly still pretty bad at my gearing levels. I went over the important stuff, but you can see like my gear is not great. Like these are not high level. They have some of the stats I want. Still haven't put a prefix on it yet because I haven't completely decided which direction I'm going. But you can see there's like missing suffixes that would be better to get resists or some other stuff on there too. Nothing crazy, but anyway, they like don't have attributes on them is where I was going with that. So it's been really nice to get a bunch of these passive nodes that give me strength, dexterity, intelligence up here. This one is all attributes and movement speed, so that's nice. So that is important in picking up those attributes. And then the other important part, this is the other functioning part of the build, is we're taking this because it's not that much of a downside for us because we're running on energy shield and we're already not recharging. And this right here. So if you get this, this increases the uptime on all those lightning effects that are consuming the shock and makes them trigger again more frequently. So that's nice to jump to there. And then that's just some gain as extra and some dexterity. And then you can see I just have like attack speed. There's a lot to be worked out here on this as far as the efficiency. That probably came off super rambling, but for anybody who was like interested in like what's going on here, how it's working, I think I hit the main things here. You'll have to kind of like pick out the pieces of that you want to try and put it together. This is not a build I recommend you try to do right now because I need to optimize it. I still need to figure out like what's most efficient on the passive tree, some interactions. I need to decide whether I go Chaos Inoculation. I have a feeling this is the way to go, but it does require me to redo all the gear. And I'm a little bit hesitant with it because... character sheet, that's where I was going. Because my armor is not great. But the thing with shield builds, and I found this with the Infernalists that just did do the energy shield and low life stuff, stun threshold is a real problem, and having even just a bit of armor like this to reduce those super small hits down really matters on your heavy stun. So it's like, even if I get the build where it's just like jumping around and doing like one resonating shield like that, like the shield bonk Infernalist was, where it just like does that and that's it, is those incoming hits from these small monsters still built up that heavy stun bar. And that was something I needed to pay attention to. So I hope that goes over that. Oh, and yeah, one last thing I was going to show here is I do have this. That's the movement speed stuff. If you're using a heavy armor shield and like even the hybrid armor, is like this node's almost mandatory. Like if you're doing this and playing the build for a long time. If you don't care about movement speed, you can not do that because they are 10 div right now. But after the belt, that was the next thing I bought. Is that that's been the only super expensive things I've gotten so far. And then I think that's it. I think skills, passive tree. Yeah, so I hope you guys liked it. This probably came off again a bit more rambling because it is than my other build guide, and it's not edited at all, no script, just kind of showing what I've been working on. So I'll have to listen back to this and see if I think it still sounds good enough to throw up on YouTube. If you're looking for a build guide on this, want to reiterate, it's not finished. This is just what I've been playing and working on, showing it off. But there's still a lot of work to be done on that. And even if I do get it to the point that I have it where it's like, okay, this is good enough and it clears good enough to do a build guide on it, is going to be incredibly complicated, and I would not recommend it to anybody not already kind of experienced with making their own builds. And I also know going through it is going to be a lot of work, and I also know I'm going to miss things in it. But if you guys are still interested in that, let me know, so I can kind of gauge like how much I should be pursuing it on that front, or if I should just keep having fun with it on my own, which I'm going to do regardless, and seeing where I can get it to. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know, and I'll catch you in the next one.